And somebody else.
So if you're more than whatever, three,
Yeah,
it's
whenever.
if you're more than three, you can't discuss it at all, or you just can't discuss the vote.
So for a little while, it was sort of getting.
I need to. I haven't done it last time because it was. Should do it. Yeah,
It was actually our third experience with fire. Wow. Our kids are going down fire.
It's funny because in the law
But this one.
and in a lot of the discussion, there are a lot of towns
So we were able to salvage.
that they do and they allow it, they have.
It meant, you know, at that point, getting up friendships and. There's always so much.
I agree.
Yeah.
You see somebody every few months or. Because we're in there. During COVID.
But I think there's also some things that we can do, which is research to get. But again, I don't know if that's for, like, talk about what you want to research or where you want to find information. And but anyway, that's what I was looking at.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can't get used to this.
There's not three of the town on that. Anyway, I think it's better safe than sorry, but it'll be easier to say. No discussion. But I do think it means that really hard to get something on the table. It takes a long time to get something on the table. When we had these meetings to discuss.
So do you see what I have open?
And I saw some of the people. You can set up workshops, which is a bit like
I think I have to
additional.
do something though. I mean, the challenge is like the interface for YouTube keeps changing all the
Decision that
time.
needed to be made. You met at the town hall.
You're recording.
Between 2 months. ago.
Okay, so I don't need to do anything else?
Oh.
There was an extra meeting.
Everything else except maybe post, so I let people in, because I do expect somebody to join.
There's an executive session, but there's also some agreement.
Okay, that's-
signing or something.
Yeah, that's fine. Just be careful to only let in someone like that who.
So I think we can set it.
Okay, how do I make the host?
It's public, but you have a chance to have a discussion. That's not just.
Yeah, she came, she's, she.
Okay. Make host.
I met her.
Change host to Roseanne.
I also find it really
Yep.
at odds with how I.
All right, so that's all set.
Because something like.
So nothing else to do, because
Right.
I guess all these other things are now done automatically, because there's still like a few pages of instructions.
What is this one from you before you put something on something?
Yes.
Because how can you address different perspectives? So you end up writing it from your own perspective, isn't it?
There was this other thing in the edit settings, like customization. Be sure that all options under live chat are deselected and saved. Do I need to do any of that?
Each one of us pays something separately.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
Not in.
Yeah.
Yes. Settings. Edit. Customization. Okay, so it says, be sure that all options under live chat are deselected, so. I can unselect live chat,
Easy question.
live chat.
Okay, just one easy one.
Wonderful. Like, get rid of all those?
Like that, okay? Just one.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
James.
I'm between all this beauty and, well, stop, but.
Thank you. You want me to stop and see?
We gotta, we gotta even out.
Seems good to go,
Yeah,
sure.
so I destroy this part and destroys the other part.
And then, What if we need to pause the meeting? What do we do? Just like turn.
If you hover over that, it gives you the option to pause.
IT is going well, and I was just looking over to the shoulder because I suddenly realized I should probably.
Yeah, don't do that. It's
Status.
Yeah.
Deputy
Pretty good.
IT. correct.
That is
Yep.
the worst use of my.
Okay.
Because we have worked so long in technology. Conceptual.
You're like, but conceptually.
But I was still terrible. Fixing all of
Connecting the things to the things. Yeah. No, I was.
And also, I mean, they're coming out with tech, so.
Gonna call the meeting to order. Ready? Rosanna, you're good?
Yes, I'm good.
Call the meeting order, stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm calling to order the April 9th, 2026 Town of New Paltz Police Commission meeting. I move that we approve the agenda. On favor? Aye. And I move that we approve the minutes from last month's police commission meeting on March 5th, 2026.
Second.
All in favor? Any announcements from board colleagues?
Did that effective date get filled in? The one sentence ends with effective. Sorry.
Any announcements from our board?
Yeah.
Okay. The public, would the public like to make any comments?
I'm John, President of New Paltz, member of UACT. Want to thank you for some late-breaking changes in the agenda, which may or may not have come about since I wrote something, I don't know. You have two policy discussions that were listed today, and I'm, to be able to comment on them, will require some sense of what your conversation will be about them. And I'm hoping there will be an opportunity to respond based on having heard what your discussion was. It won't be necessarily a whole month away from now, maybe later tonight. And I'm wondering what other policies the chief is recommending for your discussions might affect whether I'm already and some others for your discussion. The chief will be going over the March monthly report. Will this be the new updatable monthly report? Or does that affect only the town board monthly report? And there's nothing on the agenda to say that the town board monthly report will be delivered today. And again, I think the chief and now the board are taking the easy way out on the question of producing and publishing the annual reports. I think there's an opportunity that's lost, but I think depending on what that updatable report is and what other changes we can make, that will be a decent replacement. Why was the sale of out-of-service weapons put on the town board agenda rather than on the police commission agenda? Last time around, it started in the police commission. Significant changes were made in the recommendation that then went to the town board. Town board reached its separate conclusion at that point. But is this saying that this sort of thing is no longer part of what the police commission should consider, and that it's been subordinated in that sense, and the issue is going directly to the town board? Because I think, I don't know, my vision of what could happen with the police commission is you could have an opportunity to take up related policies, like what defines an excess weapon? How does the police department come to that determination? How does the police department come to the determination that it needs new weapons? Right? Because they wouldn't get rid of old ones if they couldn't get new ones.
I'm sorry, did you say excess weapon?
Why, the term is out of service. But,
Okay, okay.
excess, surplus, obsolete, I'm not, I'm sure it includes all those kinds of things, but the question would be what the definition is. Why are PD weapons desirable to our officers if they're being sold at fair market rates? It's not even that they'd be cheaper than some other opportunity. And so those are the kinds of things that I think should be discussed around it, but really there's not going to be much of an opportunity to do that in the town board, whereas there could be in the police commission. So in that connection, we again encourage you to put the police commission meetings on their own night, so that you do have the flexibility to go beyond an hour. I have a lot of questions about that hiring policy document. I thought it was strange that you're looking at 12.1, which points to 11.1 and 11.3, but those aren't available on the website. And the whole document is mostly about, we do what Ulster County tells us to do. Okay, that's interesting, but not very. What's really interesting about the hiring process is not discussed in that at all. Like, how does the police department come to a determination to hire this person versus that person? It doesn't, it says that the most explicit piece of that particular document is a whole list of things that are done as part of the mental fitness. The physical and the medical are done according to county standards. This is the mental standard. There's lots of questions to be asked about mental fitness. So maybe that's what you guys will focus on tonight. I just want to, I'll conclude with the self-evaluation question. The chief self-evaluation, that looked new. I've never heard of anything about it. Is that a proposal that you guys are kicking off? And so therefore I look forward to hearing more about that. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Okay, okay, so I took down some notes based on your comments, Tom. I can just start probably to answer a few of these. So regarding the weapons that are no longer going to be used, the idea is that they would be sold at market rate, but it's a used market rate. So that's probably why a police officer would be interested in purchasing one as opposed to buying a new one. And from what I understand, it's often a situation where the police officer is basically buying their retired weapon. And the chief's evaluation process, we've been speaking as a board in terms of, how to create a process, because I think that is one of the core responsibilities of a police commission is to evaluate the chief. And we thought a good way to commence that process is to provide a self-evaluation form for the chief to complete, and then our board can review it and then come up with follow-up form. So the other piece to that was, in addition to having the chief complete this form, we were looking at having other senior members of the police department also, do the same type of self-evaluation form. So like at a minimum, probably Lieutenant Fugo would be a person in addition to yourself who we would ask. But we created this draft self-evaluation form and our board is reviewing it. We might go ahead and adopt it tonight and ask the chief to go ahead and take it home and work on it and then provide us with his answers. Or we might need to review it a little bit more, but that's something that we'll discuss as a board. And then in terms of the policies, so, there are numerous policies that a town board or a police commission could review. We thought it would make sense, because it's probably good to do this incrementally, to ask the police chief, which we did at the last meeting, to suggest 3 policies, and the 3 that he sent back information on was property and audit, hiring standards was the second one, and background investigations. So our thinking was, let's start with one of them, begin the process of having our own at the table discussion, and go from there. I can also respond. You sent a note about, what about the idea if the community had a policy that the community was particularly interested in the police commission and the town board discussing? All ears, if there's a policy that you think is worth having our police commission and town board discuss, let us know. A lot of this, the policy stuff, even like reading the hiring standards, like I took my notes after I read the hiring standards, but I think, the idea is that we're trying to, wrap our arms around, everything that's involved, and, the process will continue from there. The other thing that I was going to respond to regarding your question about the used weapons is I do see that as a town board responsibility, because it's related to our fiduciary responsibilities as elected officials. So we updated some language in terms of, what we're going to consider in terms of how to handle those weapons. And, that will be discussed at the town board portion of the evening. And was there anything else that I missed that you guys were able to take notes on? But again, and folks who just walked in, if anyone is interested in making a public comment.
There was a question about the updatable report. And I didn't get the full part of it, but it was sort of, would we be using the updatable report, or would we be doing discussing a different report today?
I'm basing this on the minutes from last.
Right, so at the last meeting, so one of the things that our board discussed was the idea of data is collected by the police department. And we thought it would be useful to ask the chief to take that data and provide us with month-over-month changes. So if we can see what the number was in March of 25 and compare it to March of 26, or March of 26 versus Feb of 26. So the chief provided us with a first draft that I thought was actually pretty useful. And, I think that's what we're doing differently from, just getting a static snapshot. We're able to look at the data from this month and last month and then compare it to, what we asked the chief to do is to, create a report that started effective Jan 25.
I'm sorry. Thank you for opening it up to the public when you said.
Yeah, I'm going to pretend that we're still in the public comment. So if you want to make a public comment, Edgar, come on up.
Well,
let's not have a dialogue, but I'll be a little bit flexible. So if you want to make a public comment, you are more than welcome.
It's about the evaluation. The evaluation as per chapter 34, police commissioners, is the responsibility of the police commission. And when I was in the police commission discussed this with the chief in public. And the thought then was that this is managed confidential, that you set up goals for the police chief in consultation with him, and that you measure that down the road, not asking for a self-evaluation like that, nor what we experienced, which was one paragraph evaluation that was given to us by the previous police police commission. That's why, in part, we abolished them because they weren't doing their job. So, as per Chapter 34, police commissioners, which is what guides the police commission, the evaluation is done by the police commission. I raise this because I'm concerned, because the expectation that you have raised, and I've gotten to understand, is that we hope that probably early fall 2026, that there will be a police commission in place. So whatever precedents you set now will then logically will carry over to the next police commission, to the actual police commission that we expect to have, that has civilians in it as opposed to elected officials. Okay, that's the distinction, because politics gets involved, and the thought is you want civilians, non-elected folks, okay, but that you select. Okay, so that's I sort of was surprised to hear that you're going to ask the chief to evaluate himself.
Well, here's the thing. We're starting the evaluation process by beginning with a self-evaluation. So I came from the private sector, and the hardest evaluations I ever had were ones that started with a self-evaluation, and then you give it back to your superior, and then that's the more robust
I can see the merit
evaluation process. As we're not going to just take his self-evaluation form and then put it in a folder.
Because we both were on the school board, and the superintendent is evaluated in the past anyway on an instrument, an agreement that's developed between both the board and the superintendent, and then down the road a year later you go back, and that's that guides the superintendent or the police chief in terms of what's expected of them. Thank you for clarifying that. It's just a step.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
So I just want to add something about that questionnaire and the intent of it as a draft. It was put in place not instead of goals, objectives, and other aspects of the job. It was put in place because we felt that the leadership and the mission of the police actually stated a responsibility to the community. And we wanted to make sure there was a metric in place for delivering against that responsibility to the community. So it's not meant to take away from all of the others. It comes directly from the mission of the police and the objectives stated in that mission, which is a public commitment to the community. And we felt that having some way of talking about that and how well we're doing against that mission was one part of a leadership evaluation. Whereas a lot of the other evaluations are skills, experiences, and other things. And that's not taking those away. It is just another dynamic of leadership within the police. So that, just to explain some of the
I appreciate the clarification.
Yeah.
I was just concerned that the real police commission down the road has the ability to make a decision as to how the evaluation will take place.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think the answer to that is we're trying to, build a better evaluation process. And we're
Okay.
starting with self-evaluation, not finishing with
Thank you. It
self-evaluation.
wasn't clear.
Okay, so then let's go to our hiring policy. Everyone have a chance to review it. Any questions?
Oh. I have a couple of questions, but I'm going to be in a minute.
And I think to echo Tom's public comment, right? So these are policies that are dictated by the county. So a lot of, how a police department runs is like a predetermined, set of guidelines. It's not like we're creating, our own policies in terms of hiring. We have to use, a stated, already reviewed process that's, part of, how we're, reviewed as a, what was the, we discussed this at our last meeting. It had to do with accreditation, like the policies that we follow are specific and required so that we are an accredited police department. But I thought the question that you raised is like, in addition to what we're required to do for accreditation, are there local practices or approaches to hiring that, you know, you could share with us that you feel that the New Paltz Police Department follows?
Yeah, absolutely. So with all of our interview process, depending on the rank we're interviewing for, whether it's a entry-level officer position or dispatch position, or whether it's promotion to sergeant, lieutenant, detective, whatever the case may be, we have a set of questions as part of the interview process. So one of the things through our accreditation is that we always have to ask the same set of questions to all the candidates. That way it can never, the idea is that if it's someone that's a local that we know, we're not going to ask them 5 easy questions and then that's the interview process. And then someone else, we ask 40 questions. It's all of our interview candidates get the same series of questions. And then ultimately, if they go to that, then they enter the background process. Our background process is very lengthy. One example of something.
Wait, but now you're jumping to background investigation, right? That's one of the 3 policies.
Correct, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But we're not discussing that tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I do have questions about your list of standard questions. Can we see that list?
I wouldn't want to put them out publicly
Right.
because then that kind of.
Defeats the whole purpose.
Correct, defeats the whole purpose of having those set questions, because then people can prepare for them ahead of time.
Maybe
I have no
that seems like a
problems.
list of questions that you could share
Absolutely,
with the police commission / town board to help us better understand the process.
absolutely.
Right.
And the past commission, when it was a standalone commission, did the process with us. For example, when Edgar, was on the police commission, he participated with the interviews with me, the lieutenant and the patrol sergeants, and we would hand out packets to everyone, the commissioners and all the New Paltz police members present, and we would all take turns, everyone would pick a question, and you kind of go around asking those questions, so it's absolutely something I can share with you all.
Did you find your questions, Lauren?
Yes.
Okay, I'll let you
Um,
jump in.
One was similar to what Tom had said, which was, why would you maybe choose one individual over another? And it was under the umbrella of diversity, is there an effort placed in having a diverse police force? Do you have outreach programs? And then that's that same question, why might you choose someone over another with those, carbon copy interviews?
Yeah, a lot of it is qualifications, credentials. If it's a full-time employee, we're bound strictly by civil service law. So if we had a full-time officer position vacant, I have to call Ulster County Civil Service, say, hey, we're looking to fill an officer position. Can you send me a list? And they send me a list of just the top 3 candidates, and we can only interview those 3 candidates. So if it's a full-time position, it hinders, we're bound by that list unless it's someone that is employed full-time with another agency and could potentially come here as a lateral. For example, Tyler White recently came here as a lateral, so he wasn't someone off the list. If we have a lateral, then that gives us a little bit more flexibility. But if it's someone that's based off the civil service list, we're bound by whoever the top 3 candidates are on the test.
It's a steal from other departments to get the person you want.
When we can, unfortunately, the same thing happens to us, so, you can kind of
Gotcha.
be a merry-go-round, so to speak.
Is there a broader or big, does the county, you might not be able to answer this, but does the county do something to sort of capture a more diverse?
I mean, the biggest thing, I think all the agencies try and do it to a degree, and that with the biggest thing is promoting the civil service exam and getting the information out there when a civil service exam is coming up, whether it's for dispatch or officer, what the case may be, getting more people to take the exam. And then ultimately the hope is the more candidates you have, the more, diverse the list is, and then it opens up options.
But that wouldn't fall under something your department would do,
I mean, we all do it to a degree, anytime civil service puts out an exam, we post it on social media, we try and let the community know, because you have to sign up through Ulster County, usually pay some type of small fee, whether it's $40 or, it's changed over the year, sometimes it's free depending on the test, and then get them to sign up, they have to go take the exam, and then that's the exam that we have to hire our full-time employees at.
So you usually, it's social media, do you do any kind of career day?
A lot of our career day stuff is not necessarily for people that are old enough to take the test yet. Because you have to be 21 to take the civil service exam. We do, like we just did, the New Paltz Middle School Career Day to get people, get students interested possibly in the law enforcement field. And we do things at the high school and different community events, but it's not necessarily, directed specifically at people that are eligible right now to sign up for the test.
Can I ask, you said that those restrictions are for full-time officers, which I know, but what about recruiting part-time officers? Do you have more flexibility for targeting recruitment there?
We do. Primarily our part-time officers, years ago, we had a dozen part-time officers. Historically now, really our only part-time officers are someone that we're looking to get full-time. Again, for example, we just hired Winston Burnett, who's in police academy now. The hope is to, when we get a position at some point and he takes a civil service exam, that we can get him in full-time, but we don't necessarily have part-time officers that work patrol really anymore. We have our other three part-time officers. One is our retired lieutenant that helps with accreditation and then administrative things like that. And the other two, one is full-time for Division of Criminal Justice Services, and the other one is a detective sergeant at a local agency. And they really strictly just help with discovery and clerical type work more than anything. So we do have a little bit more flexibility for that, but we don't really utilize part-time officers for road patrol anymore.
I have some questions. I'm curious what you know about the screening for emotional stability as well as psychological fitness that's in the hiring standards document. So those assessments are administered by Ulster County personnel. Do you know anything about, how does Ulster County personnel assess for emotional stability and psychological fitness?
So really, they refer to it as that. What Ulster County does is more medical, in my opinion. The psychological side of things is done in-house with us. We contract with Dr. Gerald Fix, who is, I believe he's actually the head of mental health for Ulster County, but he has his local practice here in New Paltz on Main Street, and he's who we contract with. So we, for example, when we start the hiring process and the background process, we administer it's an online test that he forwards to us. They take the exam. It prints out basically their scores, their results on everything. We forward that to Dr. Fix, and then Dr. Fix sits down and has a meeting with that member and reviews everything over with them and does his psychological evaluation. And then he sends us a confidential report, either recommending them for the position, not recommending them. And obviously, if he doesn't recommend them, he goes into length as to what may have come up.
Has that ever
In his
happened?
professional opinion. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Good girl.
What are examples that the doctor would flag as reasons not to recommend someone?
There's lots of things. Sometimes it can be something as simple as he thinks the candidate is immature. One example I can give you, going back to when I was detective sergeant, and because our detective sergeant is who does our backgrounds. One specifically was a candidate had admitted to driving their vehicle over 100 miles an hour on the thruway within like the last 3 or 4 months. And Dr. Fix flagged that as something to show that, the person wasn't a good decision maker, and maybe it was a maturity issue, and he flagged them for something like that. Things like substance abuse. There's a plethora of different things that it can be.
So the other thing I noticed in the hiring standards document, the document was originally authored in 2011 and then updated in 2022. How familiar are you with the updates that have occurred more recently, and what prompted them?
As far as, well, part of our accreditation is we're responsible. I say the chief, now it's myself, but in this case, Chief Lucchese updated it in 2022. We have to review policies, and even if it's not technically revised, by it being reviewed, and even if the change isn't made, that counts as a revision because you're reviewing it, you're going through it all. For example, now that we're doing this with the police commission, I'm going to take this policy back. There's one small change that is going to be made to this based on a civil service law change, and then that will now read revised, the date that it's actually physically revised. And then that gets sent out to all the members. They have to sign off saying that they read the new policy, they understand the revision, and then it'll go in as being revised in probably May of this year. So just because it states revised, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's a change to it. It just means ultimately that it was reviewed, the current chief signed off on it and made sure all the membership was aware of any revisions and signed off that they acknowledge the changes if there are any, and that they'll abide by them essentially.
So, to piggyback on Tom's comment from earlier, so this is hiring standard 12.1. And then in the procedure, it talks about a review of policy 11.3 and 11.1. Do you think it would be useful for us to take a look at the, whatever is discussed in section 11?
Or,
I mean, just to get a fuller understanding of,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll
Hiring
forward you
standards.
any policies. There's ones that are referred to here that aren't New Paltz policy, but 11.1 is a New Paltz policy. Absolutely. I can forward them to you before I leave tonight.
right, so in procedure, it says New Paltz Police Department Policy 11.1 states the New Paltz Police Department adopts and supports the Ulster County Civil Service selection of candidates. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. What within section 11 might be more noteworthy to take a look at?
I don't have the policy memorized off the top of my head, but
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, I'm pretty much the entire policy is the 2 sentences. This is basically just saying we're bound to follow Ulster County Civil Service policy when it comes to hiring.
Which is state law.
Correct. Ultimately, it's Ulster County that we have to report to, but it's New York State Civil Service law.
And then if we're gonna, continue with, this edification process, would you recommend that the next thing we look at is 12.5 background investigations?
Absolutely. That's the manner in which we would do it. We do, this process, and then once we get through this process, it starts background. So I think it would make total sense to go to that next.
And I'm looking at 12.5 to see if there's reference to any other policies. I mean, it does talk about executive law 842 and 2B directs municipal police training council to establish mandatory minimum hiring standards. So that's almost kind of like what we're doing now. Well, we can discuss that when we pick this back up, looking at background investigations.
And I'll go through it, and if there's any NPPD policies that it refers to in there, I'll forward that along with it.
Okay, and then I think it would be useful and interesting for us to look at the list of local internal questions, just so we understand
Can I ask,
a bit better.
how were those internal questions developed?
They were developed, my understanding is they were developed in 2020, 2021. Chief Lucchese did it along with the New Paltz Reform and Reinvention Committee. That's when we started that set of questions.
How many questions?
It varies on whether they're already a police officer or not. I believe if they're already a police officer, there's 28 for the police officer entry. I believe it's 23 if they haven't been a sworn
And
officer
that's
yet.
an oral session?
Interview, yeah.
How long does that take? 28 questions?
Yeah, depends on the candidate, anywhere from, a half hour to an hour or more. It's
Okay. Any other questions about hiring policy from our board?
I threw 4 questions in one at you, so I apologize about that.
No,
But
it's okay.
one of them was if you had like 2, you're asking these carbon copy questions. If you have a few candidates in front of you, how do you make that choice?
It depends, sometimes we look at qualifications, credentials, other times we'll start backgrounds on both of them. And then ultimately, if one person doesn't make it through the background process, then, we can find a candidate that way. We've done that in the past too, where we've said, hey, we really like both of these candidates. Let's start backgrounds on both of them. And then if one happens to, wash out or, something comes up, whether Dr. Fix flags a psychological or they don't pass a polygraph or whatever the case may be, sometimes that will disqualify a candidate.
Do you think about community representation, like females on the force versus male?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's not a sole factor. We definitely look at, credentials, qualifications. That's definitely something we consider. And like I said, it's really on a case by case basis. A lot of times we try and just look in, whether someone's qualified for the position, whether it's education, life experience, maturity. There's a lot of things that go into it. Anytime there's no set standard per se as to how many of the supervisory staff is in an interview, but if it is a full-time officer interview, all the supervisory staff is there. All the sergeants, the lieutenant, myself.
Does the county give you the demographics of the people who are in the pipeline in terms of like what you're being given? Like, do you have data from them saying like there's 3,000 people who took the test, 1,500 of them were male, 12,000 were female? They don't give you any information like that. So you don't even know. So that makes it hard to figure anything out whether.
Yeah,
Because they don't.
Ultimately, we can ask the county for an unofficial list because it's accessible online.
Mhm.
So anyone can pull up the civil service list, but most of the time that's just first, last name and what they scored on the test.
Okay. There's no way to like look at the data and see if your department is in line with what the demographics of the people taking the test are or not. So there's no way to like check.
Not to my knowledge. I mean, civil service may have those records up there, but they're not accessible. When I call up to the county civil service, it's a matter of saying, hey, we're looking for an officer, a dispatcher, or a sergeant. And then they send me the list and the top 3 people that are on it. And then even that is generally, it's their name, their address, what they scored on the test, and what rank 1, 2, or 3 they are.
If someone fails your psychological, does that data then get transferred back to civil service so that person's kicked off the test? So eventually you could conceivably have 3 people in the test who are all mentally unfit because they would never drop. And so no one would be able to ever hire? Like, how does that?
Well, we can report back to them if we disqualify those 3. We can report back to civil service, say we disqualified them for this reason, but that doesn't my understanding is that doesn't automatically make it so civil service removes them from the list. That would make it so they could potentially go to us and say, okay, we'll send you a list of, now you'll get 4, 5, and 6. But they're pretty strict on, there has to be a legitimate reason as to why. It can't just be, I interviewed all 3 of them and I didn't really like any of them.
No,
It
I
has to
understand
be
that, but I'm
yeah.
saying if you find cause for like, for not doing it, then that person's not removed from the list. So then so that means that other police departments I'm just looking at this isn't you, this is a system failure at the county level, because they're not screening for mental health.
Correct.
So they're producing a list with people who are mentally unfit, and I'm assuming that everyone is doing a background job. So the reality is that since the top person on the list isn't getting kicked off, then you have one unfit and then 2 people who are fit, and then eventually you'll get far enough down the list that there'll be another person who's unfit, and now you'll have 2 people who are unfit and 1 person who isn't. And then eventually you'll get down the list enough times, and then you'll have 3 people who are unfit. And then the only solution to then is to go 4, 5, and 6, but with enough time, those people will also work their way through the list.
Yeah, but they offer the test how often?
Correct. That's when now the Police Chiefs Association has kind of encouraged civil service to offer the test more often. It used to be, a test, they wouldn't offer a new test until the prior list was exhausted. So as recent as 3 or 4 years ago, you could have the same list for 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
Now civil service has reassured us that they're going to offer a test every year, and they may even look to doing 2 2 tests a year.
Right, so that scenario that you're describing, Sean, which I think makes sense, is a little less likely.
Well, it
if
is, it
it's
doesn't,
offered more often.
I mean, it does unless, I mean, it would. How many police officers are hired in Ulster County in a year? You're talking probably over 100.
No, probably not that many.
No.
In a year, 100 take the test. I wouldn't say there's probably not 100 hired
Okay,
in a year. Again, it varies on the year. If there's a bunch of retirements or,
I'm just thinking like, isn't Kingston drawing from the same list? So that's a big,
Kingston does not draw from the same list
They have a
because
different-
they're a city, they have their own. But
okay,
a lot
all right,
of,
that was my concern.
but it's
I was
also,
like, Kingston's
I'll be
gonna-
honest, they have their own list, but it's a lot of the same candidates because
Yeah.
and quite frankly, we encourage it because we want everyone to have the most opportunity if we're going to us profiling. So for example, if I'm talking to the recruits at the Meet the Recruits night up at the police academy, we tell them like, when you sign up for the civil service exam, don't put yourself in a hole for just Ulster County. Make sure you cross file so you're on City of Kingston's list, cross file so you're on Orange County's list. Because ultimately we want them to succeed and be available for wherever they want to go. So for no fee, you take one exam and it could be good for Ulster, Orange, Dutchess, City of Kingston, City of Newburgh. So a lot of times we are pulling the same candidates. It's just they have their own separate list to pull from. And technically we do in New Paltz, we start with a preferred residency list. We don't have to hire off that preferred residency list, but when Ulster County first sends us the list, they just send it from the preferred New Paltz residents. And then if we can say, we would like to see the county-wide list, but then once we do that, we can't revert back to the preferred residency list.
So that's for familiarity with the community, but is it also for, less likelihood that someone will leave because they'll find a future job that's more proximate to where they live? So for instance, I know that this is an enormous problem, not just for New Paltz, but for a lot of the area municipalities. Like I was speaking with Mayor Noble last night from Kingston about exactly this, where, they make the investment, they hire a police officer, and then the town of Poughkeepsie offers a lot more money and they're gone. Or, they interview someone from Orange County and the police officer is like, oh yeah, I can commute to Kingston. And then once an opportunity is closer to home, they're gone. And that revolving door is very expensive, very disruptive. And it's a reality that many of the departments and municipalities face. So is there a way to address that or
That part of
screen
that,
for candidates?
like you said, a part of that is, the thought process is with the preferred residency list, if you're someone that maybe, grew up in New Paltz or lives in New Paltz, maybe you'll be drawn to stay here. As opposed, maybe you won't leave to go work somewhere else for $10,000 more because it's your hometown or whatever the case may be. The negative to that also can be it shrinks the list and how many people we have on it. If 150 people take the countywide test, maybe only 10 of them are New Paltz residents. So a lot of times, we look at the preferred residency list to start, but a lot of times we end up going to the countywide list just because it cuts the candidate pool down so much.
But is there also a challenge though, if you're creating a preference for locals, might there be an issue? Like sometimes it's good to have someone with less familiarity and maybe a more neutral bias. Like how do you screen for officers that may be too familiar with the community
Yeah.
in a negative way?
Yeah.
What kind of questions?
So a big part of that is, going through our questionnaire, so to speak, our interview questionnaire, and then the background process is where we really try and, get that stuff out, so to speak. And, I'm an example of that. I grew up in New Paltz and I tell people during the interview process that if there's someone from New Paltz, it's like, there's pros and cons to working in the town that you grew up in, or even working in the town that you live in. It can work in your benefit in some situations where you may be familiar with someone. If you're dealing with a difficult individual, maybe they, you show up and they know you because you went to school together, whatever the case may be, and you're able to de-escalate that situation because you're familiar with each other. And then other times you could have a hard situation where you go to a, traumatic call and it's someone because you work in the town you grew up in. So there's definitely pros and cons to working in the municipality you grew up in or you reside in.
Okay, any other questions regarding hiring for tonight? Okay, then I'm gonna move on to our next topic. So, thanks, William, taking the lead in terms of creating this self-evaluation form. What we tried to do was come up with a form and the beginning of an evaluation process. So this is a document that's about 4 or 5 pages. And the first page includes a purpose that kind of describes, what we're looking to accomplish by, having the individual complete this form. But then we also broke it down into 7 different categories where there'll be questions asked. And category 1 is working with the community. Number 2 is service. Number 3 is accountability. Number 4 is compassion. Number 5 is inclusiveness. Number 6 is integrity. And number 7 is problem solving. So each of those 7 categories has a description in terms of like what we mean, kind of like what we're interested in regarding that topic. And then we're asking the individual to provide evidence of past successes and future objectives that they would like to pursue regarding that topic. So it's the same exercise for each of those 7 categories. So does the board have any thoughts on this draft? Anything we want to tweak, anything we want to expand upon?
I appreciate it, and I think I don't have any tweaks or corrections, I think.
And it's a living document, so, I think it'll be useful to start with this. We'll ask the chief to complete it. We'll see, what it looks like and how it feels in terms of responses, and obviously we can make changes. Maybe we'll even, wait until we receive your responses before we ask Lieutenant Bucco to take his event.
Just because I did spend a bit of time on this. The one question I had, which I didn't put in, but it was one I had, was, do we want to put a time frame on these? So that would depend on the frequency with which we did it. And we've had some conversations about the frequency with which we have that dialogue about how successful we're being and what we want to do differently moving forward. But so again, I didn't put a time frame in because I didn't know the time frame by which we would be.
The time frame in terms of like, once we hand it to the chief and say, please complete this form?
Yeah, but the evidence of past success and future neither have.
Oh, I see.
Neither have a time bracket, so
Like
it could
past
be
success
like
within the last.
within the last year, within the last month, or,
I think
how far,
6 months would be fair, but you can go back 6 months for answer.
and
right?
then how far forward do we think some things will be short-term, something will be long-term? Anyway, that was just one question as I started putting.
I mean, I think the evaluation process should be annual. And that includes a self-evaluation, a response from the evaluators, and then like a debrief. So it's almost like 3 phases. But I think evaluating individuals once per year makes sense. That's why I would suggest that evidence of past successes should be a 12-month look back. And then future objectives I'd like to pursue within the next 12 months.
I'm correct, that's consistent with the current evaluations, which are done yearly as well?
Yes.
Yeah, so those are yearly as well.
Correct.
Okay, and the union is yearly. In the
Correct.
union agreement, that's
Yeah.
yearly, okay,
Gets
that makes
annual
sense.
evaluation. So 12 months, 6 months?
12 months, yeah.
You can answer it back 12 months. The officers, when they get evaluated.
Talk louder.
I'm sorry. The evaluations that the police officers get, are they done January to January, or is it date of hire?
No, it's the calendar year, so January.
Okay, so every officer is evaluated at the same time.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other tweaks besides attaching a timeline to, how to answer these questions?
No.
I think that this is a great document and thank you for putting it together. I do have the thought that as you said, this is a living document. This is the first round. I think that getting the hiring questions might inform more additional questions that we might want to put in the future, but we can do that at that point. We don't have to do that now.
And then what about, so let's say we hand this to the chief today, how long do we give the chief to provide us with a response? I have a feeling, but what do you guys think?
Maybe like June?
What?
I was thinking next month.
I was thinking,
Yeah.
Well,
I
no,
feel-
because I'm thinking you're
I was
saying.
thinking 3 months or 3
Okay,
weeks.
Well, 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Well, I was thinking of this as a yearly thing. And you can look back a certain amount of time and wants to look forward to the future. So, and if we're gonna self-evaluate, then do the evaluation. And then do the debrief, that's probably gonna take 3 or 4 months to do that. So that's why I was thinking. That's why I was
The
thinking that.
process is 3 months.
Yeah, like you're asking him to report on something and he only has a limited amount of time to look back to do it.
Well, he looks back at the
A whole
previous
year.
12 months.
Okay,
From whenever he does it. Yeah.
yeah, all right.
Yeah,
Just if I can clarify, do you want me to previous 12 months from today, 12 months back, or do you want me to do the calendar year of 2025 like we would
12 months
with our
from,
officers?
12 months look back from when the evaluation ends up in your hands.
Okay,
I don't think it really matters that much. Just the idea is like give you enough of a breath to consider.
I just didn't know, because like with it doesn't matter to me, but with like the officers and sergeants, they have an evaluation for 2025 and 2024 and 2020, they'll have one for 2026. So that's why I
And
didn't
that's in
know.
January, right?
Sure, but in the future, we can get this to you, like, right, on January 2nd, but today is April.
Well, and this is, like you said, this is just something for us to start to get an idea of, yeah, so it's more like practice run.
So if we give this to the chief tomorrow, after we make these basic edits,
And I'm open to feedback as well, if there's other comments, but,
I'm good with, launch
start now.
with this
and then
draft. Yeah.
Adapt as we go.
Yeah. But when is the due date? When do we want?
Do we want it at the next, at our May? Yeah, or,
Well, that's why I was thinking 3 weeks to complete the evaluation. And then that gives us a week to review it and
Just a thought is, again, because this is a leadership commitment, I wonder whether maybe the chief does it first, but then we don't do the rest of the other leadership until their review in January. So there's a sort of setting of the bigger goals, and then we bring the other leadership that we decide should take this.
I don't think we need to wait until January. I'd rather.
It's just that's when they've done their review already.
Sure,
from
but
what I
this is a
understand.
different review.
Okay.
This is a police commission review.
Okay.
That's
I was
that's
just
an
a-
internal department
It
review.
was just a thought that we do one, yeah.
I don't wanna wait. I mean,
That's fair.
Yeah, I think 3 weeks is good. I'd like to give us before the next police
Okay.
commission.
All right.
Okay, so we'll get you that evaluation tomorrow. And then send it to us 3 weeks later. Or earlier is fine.
I was gonna say, I'll try and turn it around faster if I can.
Thank you.
Anything else to discuss regarding police commission? A bunch of people came, we could do public comment at the beginning of the meeting and public comment now. Just as a special consideration, anyone want to make a public comment regarding police commission questions, comments? Floor is yours. Okay. All right, move to adjourn police commission. I'm sorry.
Still have to review the monthly report, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. So for March of 2026, we had no commendations, we had no defensive actions, but we have the one incident from the month of February to review. We shared at the end of the month that we weren't able to review at the last meeting. So that was one incident that necessitated 3 defensive action reports. The incident occurred on February 25th, at about 1:33 a.m. on Main Street. It involved 3 officers. The first officer was walking foot patrol and observed a subject being removed from one of the establishments on Lower Main Street. There was a large crowd outside that began yelling and pushing employees of the establishment. When the officer went over and attempted to take control of the situation, the officer was pushed multiple times, was pulled by his ballistic vest, and was struck in the face with a closed fist. Someone punched the officer in the face. 2 other officers arrived on scene and were attempting to gain control of the subjects. Continued to be pushed, and subjects weren't listening to any verbal commands. The 3 officers unholstered their OC spray and advised the crowd that if they didn't disperse, they were going to be sprayed with OC spray. And after a short period, the crowd dispersed and they were able to holster their OC spray without ever having to deploy it. And then ultimately they were able to provide medical attention to the subject that was escorted out of the establishment. Does anyone have any questions?
So after reading that report, that I understand there's a protocol for, it's pepper spray, right? OC spray.
Yeah, OC stands for oleoresin capsicum. That's the chemical that makes it burn.
Capsicum. Wow.
Yeah. And so anytime, even if OC spray isn't deployed, if an officer takes the canister out of the holster, that necessitates a defensive action report. So these 3 officers just pulled it out of the holster and advised the crowd that if they didn't disperse, they were going to be pepper sprayed, but they never actually deployed any pepper spray.
Is that a new policy or is that?
It's been a new false policy for years, but now it's been New York policy as well. So our policies are actually more strict than New York State. New York State only requires use of force reporting for certain criteria. Ours, we require for other actions as well. New York State requires if you deploy your firearm, taser, baton, or OC spray, those are the only times you have to do it. Any hands-on or anything like that, you don't have to report to New York State for, but we still require that.
You do, you have that.
Correct.
Could you just, just for our own edification, just go across the row and identify the titles for each column and just like explain what they mean? I mean, some are pretty self-explanatory, but a little.
Which row are you?
The row where it says calls for service, traffic summons, arrest, foot patrol, just.
On the new report?
Yeah, the new month-over-month activity report.
Absolutely. So for March of 2026, we had 1,000.
No, not the numbers. I just want a description about
Of
like
what they are?
Yeah.
So calls for service is anytime we receive a call and we open an incident, that's how many times an officer responded to something in the town or village of New Paltz. Whether it's a vehicle lockout, a property check, a crime, whatever the case may be. That's how many times we responded. Traffic summons is how many traffic tickets were issued that month. Arrests is how many arrests were made. Foot patrols are when the officers call out, get out of their vehicles and walk on foot patrol, whether it's, on Lower Main Street in one of the plazas. And then school foot patrols is just that when they, call out one of the 4 schools and walk foot patrol in the schools. And then the last one is any defensive action reports.
Is a school foot patrol part of foot patrol or that's separate?
Separate.
Just, yeah.
Yeah, so the officers are expected, obviously depends on call volume allowing, they're expected to walk. This is obviously the day shift officers when school is open, but they're expected to walk a foot patrol, just a regular foot patrol. And then in addition to that, walk a foot patrol in one of the 4 New Paltz Central School District schools.
But then you don't do that during the summer, so that's the advantage of having this month over month data.
Yes.
You do 0 school foot patrols in July and August.
Yes.
Yeah, this was, I did like seeing this chart, the comparison of that month to month.
Yeah, absolutely. I just have a couple other things for the monthly report. We had 2 changes in personnel, which were the hirings, like we spoke briefly about earlier, Officer Tyler White and Officer Winston Burnett. Tyler is up and running, so to speak, and out patrolling, and Winston is going through police academy and loving life. So well, I will hopefully have him out of the academy and on the road probably end of July, early August.
So in your report, you also include a note about March 26th, where we saw an increase in calls for service and arrests. Can you comment on those numbers? Like both month over month and year over year?
As far as,
Any idea why?
I mean, unfortunately, there can be really no rhyme or reason specifically. You know, for example, our 7 to 3 shift today didn't have very many calls up until about 1:30, and then in the last hour and a half of their shift, they responded to 10 different calls. An assault at one of our schools, medical emergency. It's sometimes there's a rhyme or reason, other times it's just a busy day or a busy week. You know, there's certain times of the year where, you know, traffic summons may go up, you know, based on traffic. More visitors to town, things of that nature, same things with accident reports. As far as arrests go, a lot of times it's just, you know, at random.
It says 30 to 50 arrests from December to January. I was curious if that was.
Yeah, and that could be, you know, that could be a host of different things. I don't want to just make an assumption. 20 different arrests could just be, you know, for example, December, SUNY New Paltz students are not here for a decent portion of that month with summer break, or excuse me, winter break. That could be part of it. Officers are on vacation because of the holidays, so there are less officers working, or a certain officer that's, you know, more proactive. There's a lot of different factors that it could be.
New Year's resolutions.
There you go.
Anything else before we adjourn? Police Commission?
Just the only 2 other things I had are April conversations with the police is Thursday, April 23rd at 11 a.m. here at the police department. And the last thing was just in the month of March, we conducted a total of 32 hours of bicycle patrols on our local trails and parks.
Tell us a little bit about the opportunity to talk to police, like who attends that meeting?
As far as who attends from the public or who attends from the police department? From the police department, we try and switch it up on a monthly basis. Historically, in the past, a lot of times it would just be the chief. I've taken the approach of trying to do different members that way, different community members that show up have the opportunity to meet different police members and not just me. So, you know, we'll always try to have 2 members at every monthly conversations with the police. Like I said, a lot of times it's a sergeant and an officer. It may be a detective and myself. The lieutenant may be there with the sergeant. We try and switch it up. And
Do you have the same community members attending every time, or do you see it?
honestly, we don't have very much attendance. I think the last 3, we didn't have any attendance, but we're gonna keep doing them. And now that it's warm weather out, you know, we'll start this next one this year at the police department, but come May and then in the warm weather months, we try and move around. We do them at Peace Park. Starbucks and different local businesses have been gracious enough to let us use their facility, and then we try and move it around. We also have been moving the days and times around to make it, so, you know, people can make it as opposed to doing it at the same time and same day every month. We try and move it around. We do some on weekends.
Do you need help publicizing? Like, is there an announcement that you could share with us and then we can all share it?
Yeah. I
Okay.
usually put one out on our social media. I can share it. We can get it out. on the
Yeah, share it
account.
with the board member
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
we can try to share it as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else?
That's everything.
Okay.
Thank
To
you.
adjourn,
Okay.
you guys,
Oh, no, I was going.
all in favor? Aye. You guys want to take a quick break or you want to just
I could use.
continue?
I could use a
Okay,
minute.
we'll be back in 2 minutes.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Hello.
Sorry? I don't know, I'm guessing it's that way, so. I don't know where the bathroom is.
It's out that way, on like the other side of that wall.
It comes to us all on the next.
Oh, yeah. As well, I'm good. That went down better than that. Push it.
Oh, really? Oh,
Um,
it was sort of the nicest thing I came across my screen this week. I was like, oh, that's easy. Yes, I like that. I'm just gonna do that, but.
No, it's not, no, I just, assumed there would be a lot of work available to. That's why I based it on the mission, because I thought that the data around. Exactly. But mission's been out there and it's public and everything, read it, presumably, process.
That's pretty
I
accurate.
mean, there are lots of thoughts of what else could be on there, but keep it something, we can always add to it.
Yeah.
Also from the police perspective, like if this would be existing, like where did that come from? It's like military. It's public.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Anyone else want to speak on the comment, sign in?
Should ask, I find the law.
Okay. Well, it's just.
It's fair, as well.
So, interesting, just that I didn't know that they had to report that they even took it out of their cold storage.
Yeah. It's interesting with that data is always interesting because my, sometimes, like, you might look at someone and say, why do they have pepper spray? They've only used it once in their career. Yeah, but they pulled it out 36 times and pointed it to his face and said, shut up on a mace show, turn the keys off on a mace show. And it shows you the effectiveness of that. Just this, yeah, well, I mean, it's, you know, it's, everyone is super compliant with this. Section. So it's just to keep a record of this. It's also, it's just very interesting. How this kind of like, okay, this, we, you know, use this 36 times in last year and never would have. Pull back the days on the guys that don't forget that. You know, and like, you need to have information on that. And it also would be.
You guys ready? Okay, I'm gonna call to order the April 9, 2026 town board meeting. Let's stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Someone wanna read the land acknowledgement?
I'll do it.
Thank you.
The town of New Paltz humbly acknowledges that we are on the traditional lands of the Munsee, Esopus, and Lenape people. The Indian Removal Act of 1830 forced the people to relocate to inhospitable territory far from the bountiful valley and mountains we inhabit today. The town further acknowledges that much of the physical structure of our town and village was built by enslaved Africans who labored as the property of their owners until 1827 on this very land. We acknowledge the contributions, resilience, and accomplishments of the BIPOC community who have overcome historic injustice to inform our past and inspire our future. Please visit the resource library on our website to learn more. We encourage residents and visitors to learn more about the contributions and sacrifices made by the indigenous people and enslaved Africans by visiting these sites that are linked in the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Announcements, the Office of Community Wellness is having an event on April 15th at New Connections United Methodist Church. There's also, a Planting Seeds of Joy event on April 19th at 1 p.m. I'm sorry, the April 15th event it includes a meal starting at 5:30 with music at 7 p.m. And then the Planting Seeds of Joy event takes place on Sunday, April 19th at 1 p.m. at the New Paltz Community Center. It's an opportunity to create some starts for your planter, garden, or window box. Second announcement, we currently have the following board or committee openings for volunteers: Planning Board, Environmental Conservation Board, Historic Preservation Commission. If you're interested, please contact the assistant at townofnewpaltzny.gov. And another reminder, the Moriello Pool applications are available at Town Hall. All applications are due back at Town Hall by 4 p.m. Tomorrow. And a friendly reminder to all community members and organizations, the only town-sponsored events that do not require police and application fees are the Memorial Day Parade, Halloween Parade, and Holiday Hoopla. And my final and fifth announcement is regarding brush pickup. This will begin on April 27th. This is when the town highway department comes by and takes away the brush that you leave at the edge of your road. Please leave it in one pile by the 27th to ensure pickup. Only one pickup will be done on town roads. The highway department will not go back for piles that are put out late. Brush only, please. Please note this is different than the village's spring cleanup where other items may be left out. So in the town outside the village, it's brush only, so branches. Any other materials will be left behind. And please don't have any logs greater than 15 feet long or 18 inches round. The roads will be done by the plow runs, starting with the roads west of the Walk Hill. Okay, public comments. We have a sign-in sheet. Folks have signed in, and we're absolutely willing to have anyone else make comments after we go through this list. So I'm going to start. We have Joe Londa. Just state your name and what community you're from.
Joe Londa, Town of New Paltz, and I am here to give comments against the battery energy storage, which has been open for some time for comments. My comments may come as a little bit of surprise because I was the primary author of the draft best laws. But it's been 4 years and a lot has changed in terms of the technology, as well as my own personal understanding. What I was commissioned with 4 years ago was to write a draft law. It wasn't to determine what should we do. So I did the task of writing a draft law. So what will surprise you is that my comments are, I don't think we need the draft laws at all. And here's why. There is one exception, and let me handle the exception first, and then I'll give the explanation why we don't need the draft law. The exception is that we should modify the solar permitting application to include the question, is a battery included? Yes or no? If yes, what size? And include the battery in the site plan. So that's the only thing that we actually need, I think. Here's why I think we don't need the draft law, the laws for concerned vests. So the law covers everything from residential to utility scale. Utility scale is essentially going to be a one-of-a-kind situation. If you have high voltage, really high voltage lines traveling towards New York City, you might have a developer want to put in a BESS, which would require a transformer, a substation as well, which is a very expensive proposition to undertake. More likely, the question will be, do you have a substation in your community or more than one substation? New Paltz only has one substation. And so it's going to be probably a one-to-one relationship. And so for utility scale BESS, It either should be classified as a utility project, in which case there is no law pertinent to that, or if it's classified as a commercial project, we should simply use the special use permitting process, because we're talking about a one-of-a-kind situation. All of the parameters concerning noise abatement, lighting, fencing can all still be included. And so you can have the regulations that you want, just use the special use permitting as opposed to putting law in place into the code. So that's at the high end of the solution, utility scale. At the residential end, a lot has changed here. What has changed is that batteries have become productized. And you can go to Walmart and buy a backup battery and plug it in. You plug your refrigerator into the backup battery and the battery into the wall. When you lose power, your refrigerator will continue to be running because of the batteries. These things are going to be unregulated because you can just go out and buy them. What controls the safety of them is the UL testing. Like all products that go through UL testing, whether we're talking about a refrigerator or a stove or a car, that's what gives the community the protection is the UL certification of the products themselves. There's very little written in the law on what's called the tier 1. There's very little anyway. And I would argue that you don't need any of it because it's going to be unregulated, given that these things have essentially become productized. And just as an example of this, how it's become productized, most people aren't aware of this, but they're now selling stoves, induction stoves, with batteries built into them. You wonder, well, why? Well, 2 reasons. A, you get backup, and B, you get the ability to, if you're converting from propane to electric, you don't have to run a 50 amp circuit to run that electric stove because the batteries are always being charged. If you want to cook a turkey, you can do that and the batteries will recharge later. You don't have to incur the cost of installing a 50 amp circuit. That's just an example of how things have changed. We will see batteries everywhere and they're going to be off the shelf plug and play. So thank you for your consideration. I also
Thank
hope
you.
the procurement policy is coming to a
It
conclusion.
will, it will.
Thanks, Joe. Albert Cook?
Albert Cook, community member, public school teacher here. And I've come to just express my concerns about Executive Order 203 and the Police Commission. As everybody, I think, here knows, Executive Order 203 was signed in 2020 by Andrew Cuomo and had a deadline of April, I think sometime in April 2021 for local municipalities to be in compliance with that. And there was a commission that was formed that I was a part of that gave a report to the board in 2022 that had several recommendations concerning how to comply. The goals, I think, of Executive Order 203 was to modernize police strategies, build community trust, to review and reform and improve policing, to make it more accountable, more transparent, more equitable, and reducing racial disparities. And one of the key elements of trying to do that was building citizen police commission. And it's 2026, and I don't know about, for what I see, how much of those recommendations have been instituted for New Paltz. What I do know is that the police department has become less diverse, and none of the things that encourage community trust and accountability and transparency have increased or modernized, in my view. And the document that was submitted to the board to me, doesn't seem to be in any tangible way in use. So my comments are, I'm just wondering, I know government and municipalities and bureaucracy generally moves at the pace that it moves, but I'm wondering why there aren't any tangible movements forward according to the recommendations that I have seen, and why it appears to me that there are tangible movements backwards away from them. It's just very concerning. I mean, I know that, we all saw the murder of George Floyd on those videos, and it had a tremendous impact on the sentiments about how policing should be done in the United States. And of course, the executive order is a response to that. And, for some people, I think it was an emotional response. And of course, emotions are critical to moving communities. Emmett Till's murder had that impact on the civil rights movement. And then the executive order is a political response to those sentiments. But I'm wondering, and this commission that I'm speaking of was also a local political response to those sentiments. But I'm wondering, are we just waiting for the emotional sentiment to peter out and have no real tangible action on a political level because the emotional sentiment is petered out and the accountability is not there? I'm wondering if that's our condition, or does New Paltz value what is at the core of Executive Order 203, and would we do it anyway? And if that's true, what are we doing about the reality that it seems that no institutional progress has been made, and some clear signs that we are moving backwards has also been made? Those are my comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Edgar Rodriguez.
Albert, thank you for being a pioneer in the issue of police commission and for giving the board this history. I'm so going to pick up from your comments. I have prepared a statement that I'm going to read. I'm not going to read it fast. I have copies for the board and for anyone else that might be interested in it. My name is Edgar Rodriguez. I served on the New Paltz Town Board until December 31st of last year, and also held the position of police commissioner in the spring of 2025. Additionally, I am the chair of the UAC Criminal Justice Reform Committee, which has been actively monitoring police practices in New Paltz and advocating reforms, both locally and statewide, for many years. Some of our members are in the audience tonight and will make public comments. Historically and during my tenure, the New Paltz Town Board struggled significantly when it came to addressing matters related to policing. By the end of this month, your board will have reached its 4th month in operation, with Kitty Brown serving as a sole member, continuing from the previous administration. My hope is that you achieve meaningful success as a board. That's what I want, especially when it comes to addressing policing matters, which account for more than 40% of the town's budget. This matter extends beyond its substantial impact in the town finances. It plays a pivotal role in building public trust and promoting effective governance throughout our community. The decisions made here will shape relationships between residents and local leadership that are essential for a healthy civic environment. I am able to address you candidly this evening because I am not restricted by a gag order. According to the legal counsel of Kate Nearpass, from the previous board engaged to investigate a racial and gender discrimination complaint filed by the police chief against both Essie Lewis and myself. The police chief submitted an extensive complaint alleging that Essie and I engaged in racial discrimination and harassment against him, specifically citing his identity as a white male. Reverse discrimination. During our official interactions, on page 25 of the Nearpass report, titled Investigative Report, that you all have, the findings clearly state that both Essie and I were fully clear of any allegations regarding discrimination or harassment directed towards the police chief. This was a frivolous complaint that questions the police chief's ability to manage the police department, let alone the pain that it cost our families. I am here tonight to advocate on behalf of 2 African-American police officers from New Paltz who have also faced charges brought forth by the police chief, who is a public figure, whose actions warrant careful examination. My concern for both officers has grown. The outcome of these town board deliberations will not only impact the officers directly, but will influence the broader community and public perception of local leadership. Community members and I observed some of the public legal proceedings. In one instance, there was a binding arbitration hearing, while another involved an indictment at the Ulster County Courthouse. Both events that the police commission and town board only became aware of after they had already taken place. In other words, when I was in the board, we did not know that was going on. Police chief acted on his own to go to the prosecutor, bypassing the town board and the police commission. It must be noted, the police commission was dissolved due to the police chief's discomfort with legitimate concerns about institutional racism that Essie and I brought forward. Many of the challenges we have faced, ranging from the police chief's complaint against us, the charges levied against the 2 Black officers, and the dissolution of the police commission, as well as numerous other related concerns, might have been prevented if the police chief had openly addressed his personal discomfort with discussions about race. This reluctance hinder our ability to fulfill our professional duties, which includes addressing racism as mandated by police commissioner laws, our law, chapter 34 on our books, resolutions and established policies. Tonight, with all 4 members present being newly appointed, I'm uncertain about the extent of your familiarity with the concept of institutional racism. New Paltz serves as a microcosm of broader societal dynamics. These are actively playing out with SUNY New Paltz, and I was a faculty member there for 10 years. The New Paltz Central School District, I was in the board for 6 years there and have been fighting them since 1973, and the New Paltz Town Board in general. This recurring tendency among individuals in positions of authority to dismiss or deny the existence of racism happening here is dangerous. Such denial perpetuates systematic issues and highlights the ongoing need for honest dialogue and meaningful action. Denying a problem does not solve it. You now have a unique chance to confront systematic racism within the New Paltz Town Government and Police Department. By conducting regular monthly evaluations of police chief, By the way, the police commission, law says every 6 months. By conducting regular monthly evaluations of the police chief, rewriting chapter 34, which is the law, the town law, on police commissions, and establishing a civilian police commission, you can take meaningful steps towards accountability and progress. These actions will help ensure transparency, foster inclusivity, and drive positive change for the community. Thank you for listening to me tonight.
Got the copies for everybody?
Thank you, Ezra.
I symbolically hand it to the 4 board members. It's your responsibility. They can get you a copy. I should have given them a copy. Of you.
Yeah, if you don't have it all, if you don't
I have it all.
Okay, thank you.
I have enough of the press also.
Sure.
Okay, Maureen Crocker.
Hello, my name is Maureen Crocker and I'm a member of the New Paltz community. I'm here tonight to let you know that we need to take a look at what is going on in the New Paltz Police Department. Where are all the Black officers? Many have left due to the hostile and racially charged work environment. 2 Black officers are on a forced administrative leave right now. Both these long-serving officers are men who have demonstrated integrity and commitment to our community. Something is wrong. I am calling on the town board to initiate a thorough and transparent investigation of the New Paltz Police Department. Thank you.
Maud Bruce.
Good evening. I am Maud Bruce, president of the NAACP, and I live in the town of Wawarsee. I'm here to support the situation that's going on in the police department. There have always been racial problems here in New Paltz. I've been in New York for 58 years, and ever since I've been in New York, there have always been racial problems in New Paltz. So I'm here, I'm concerned, and I'm here to support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sean Merritt Scott.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm gonna speak a little loud because there's no microphone and I would like everyone to hear what I have to say tonight. My name is Sean Merritt Scott. I am an educator. I'm using my teacher voice. And I come from a family with a strong background in law enforcement. So I stand here tonight with a deep respect for this profession and a clear understanding of the responsibility that comes with it as well. I'm here as a family member, and my nephew is a police officer, someone who took an oath to serve and protect this community, a community where he grew up in, a community where he went to school in. Okay, and today he's facing indictment. But what brings me here today is not just what happened, it's how it happened. Because what we are seeing raises serious concerns because what we are seeing raises serious concerns about process, fairness, and accountability. From what has been shared publicly, this situation appears to have bypassed normal internal procedures. It did not follow the expected chain of command. And most importantly, due process appears to have been denied. And that should concern everyone in this room. Because due process is not optional. It's a fundamental right. And that leads me to a very important question. One I believe this board owes the community an answer to. So here's my question. How did this case get to the district attorney's office? What was the process? What formal complaint was made? Were proper internal procedures followed before this escalated outside the department? Because when something reaches that level without transparency, it raises serious concerns about fairness and accountability. But this is not just about my nephew, okay? I just want you guys to understand this. What we are hearing tonight points something even larger. It points out a pattern where Black officers are leaving the department, being pushed out, or facing treatment that raises serious concerns. A pattern where oversight appears to be weakened and trust is being eroded. And when patterns like this exist, we have to ask, is this about isolated incidences or something deeper within the system? Because if even one officer can be denied proper process, what does that say about the system as a whole? This must be addressed. So tonight, I am not here to accuse anyone. I'm here to ask for accountability. This board has a responsibility, not just to manage, but to lead, to ensure that policies are followed, to ensure that no one, and I mean no one, not even the chief, is treated unfairly under the systems that you oversee. And to ensure that trust in this community is restored. So my question is simple. What are you doing right now to ensure that due process is upheld, that proper procedures are followed, and that accountability exists within the New Paltz Police Department? Because this community is watching and we are not going away. And thank you.
Thank you.
Tom, you're next.
Again, I'm Tom Jelliff, I'm a New Paltz resident, and a member of UAC. And I know I sent you all an email about the sale of weapons issue, but unfortunately, I'm never quite sure who reads what I send them, and I do want others to know about the issue. In 2018, the Trace, which is an organization that tracks gun violence, reported that according to the data from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, at least 52,529 police guns have turned up at crime scenes since 2006. Tonight, you're considering authorizing active New Paltz police officers to purchase out-of-service firearms and ammunition at fair market rate and to sell any unpurchased firearms and ammunition to one of the department's firearm and ammunition distributors. A similar proposal was unanimously voted down at the June 2024 town board meeting. And it's unclear how this even came back. We strongly urge the current town board to pass a resolution not to sell the weapons to anyone, but rather to destroy them and to make this a permanent policy of the town of New Paltz. We're aware that the sale of obsolete or surplus weapons is a widespread practice among police departments across the country. Nevertheless, it strikes us as worse than inappropriate for an agency of the law to increase the number of guns circulating in the population. As the article mentioned above makes clear, too many of these previously police-owned guns have been used to commit crimes and to wound and kill. The article didn't even consider their use in suicides, over half of all gun-inflicted deaths, or the many injuries caused by gunfire. And of very direct concern is the rate of suicide, alcoholism, and domestic violence plaguing police officers themselves at higher rates than civilians. Former Police Chief Joe Snyder recognized the immense liability of the town of New Paltz, and he never sold guns to our officers. To be sure, the sale of weapons may defray the cost of future department gun purchases, but doing the right thing is not usually free. Please vote to destroy these weapons the department no longer needs, now and in the future. Thank you.
Brian Shanley.
Good evening, Brian Shanley, representative from New Paltz Softball. Our director, Mike Burke's here in the audience as well. I'm just calling a concern to our youth in the community, in the field conditions that we play on. We've been talking back and forth with people in regards to assisting the field and putting work into it. And I've been with the organization for 4 years now, putting in countless hours at the field, raking it, getting into conditions that's safe for our kids to play on and your community as well. We're kind of getting a little pushback now. Last year, the machine was taken away from our ability to use. We weren't able to drag the fields. If you ever raked a softball field by yourself, it takes a long time. With that being said, the town was gracious enough to give us a load of dirt last year from one of the fields, because the fields haven't had dirt put in them in countless years. I mean, it's probably as long as Mike's been with the organization. But it was dumped on the side of the field and we were left to spread it all. I have no problem doing the work. But we're told now that we're not allowed to work on the fields. So I'm asking the board to strongly consider and come up with some type of compromise with the league. So that
It's on our agenda tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't see it on the agenda. I'm sorry. I must have read over it. But I would like to just voice the concern in regards to, there's right now, our New Paltz Travel League is gained 5 teams now. And more than half of it is New Paltz community members. The rec league plays on it continuously. They've been playing there for years. They have a high number as well of community children. Without us helping out and putting work in, the fields can't maintain how they stay for the past years. If we stop putting the work in and allow for the town to take care of it, there's other jobs that you guys have to do through the day, those workers, and it's not guaranteed that they can get there every single day to rake them that it needs to be. And the other 2 fields now have so many holes in it and so many low spots that when it rains, the fields are unusable for countless days, because the drainage on the fields are horrible. Yeah, those need to be raised up as well. So just asking for support from the town to kind of work through that. Thank you.
We don't have anyone on the list, but if anyone would like to make a comment, feel free to step up.
Peace, family. How y'all doing today? My name is Anthony Daniels. I'm a faculty member in the 2nd oldest Black Studies department on the planet right here at St. New Paltz. Yeah. I came here today, not in opposition to people, but in opposition to injustice. I want to be clear, because clarity matters in moments like this. I am not anti-police. I have relationships with officers and departments in this region that are rooted in respect, dialogue, shared humanity. What I am, however, is unapologetically anti-racist. And those 2 positions are not in conflict unless we allow them to be. What we are witnessing and discussing today is not simply about individual behavior, it's about patterns, as was mentioned by several people who have already given comments. It's about systems that we participate in, whether we want to or not. It's about whether we are willing as a community to confront the possibility that racism can exist not just in our hearts, but in policies, practices, and institutional cultures. And if that possibility exists, then our responsibility as human beings walking in this world with other human beings is not to deny it, it is not to delay it, it is not to dilute it, but to address it with integrity. Accountability is not punishment. Accountability is care. Accountability is how institutions demonstrate that they are worthy of the trust they ask from the public. Transparency is not a threat. Transparency is the foundation of legitimacy. And silence, especially in moments like this, is not neutrality. Silence is participation, and whatever harm is allowed to continue. Everybody knows the phrases. Silence is violence. Silence is complicity. If you see something and you don't say something, you are complicit. That's an ontological reality. This town has yet another opportunity right now, to lead. Another opportunity to show that New Paltz is not a place where issues are buried, deferred, or handled behind closed doors, but a place where truth is faced directly and justice is pursued collectively. So I stand here in support of the process of us trying to make a process more transparent, make a process more accountable for all people involved, that is rooted in the dignity of all people. And the officers whom I have already came and had coffee with cops. I've done that here. I've done it. I met them. I'm not scared of them. Not so much. But I walk through that. Right? Got to be courageous and brave because I'm committed to love. One of my favorite phrases, if you've been around me for any amount of time, is I don't need to know you to love you. And I mean it. The cops too. But just because I love you don't mean that I won't hold you what? Accountable. That's what justice is. That don't mean that I'm gonna walk away and hide. No, I'm gonna hold you accountable. That being said, at the end of the day, the goal is not division. The goal is alignment. Alignment with justice, alignment with truth, alignment with the kind of community that we say we want to be. Thank y'all very much.
Anyone else? Thanks everyone for making public comment. I know that's not always easy, you know, like some people are, you know, more comfortable getting up in front of a group and you know, you only have 3 minutes, but I'd like to welcome anyone if you want to expand on, you know, what you commented on tonight. If you have other ideas or feedback, please do not hesitate to give me a call my office. We can meet in my office or I will come to you. I'm very willing to, you know, brainstorm with anyone and any, you know, at any time. So, you know, I appreciate the feedback. You know, we appreciate the concern. It matters. I'd like to move the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Lauren, I'm going to hand the mic to you. You're going to provide a consolidation working group summary.
Let's see. So at each meeting, I'll be reporting on the consolidation working group. Consolidation is under consideration for the town and village of New Paltz. As this process moves forward, residents will have opportunities to stay informed and engaged.
Lauren, could you just talk louder possibly?
Updates from the consolidation working group will be shared at each town and village meeting, both joint and non-joint. As this reporting will be a standing agenda item, representatives of the Joint Consolidation Working Group are Mayor Alex Wojcik, Supervisor Tim Rogers, and myself, Town Councilperson Lauren McFadden. In early May, the draft consolidation agreement will be released. Residents are encouraged to attend upcoming workshop meetings to ask questions and share input. These meetings will be held at Village Hall at 7 p.m. on Thursday, May 21st and Monday, June 1st. June 1st, both boards will vote on whether to send the draft agreement to a public hearing. Public hearings are scheduled for June 17th, July 7th, July 15th, and July 29th, all at Village Hall, except the July 7th hearing, which will be held at the middle school at 6 p.m. On July 15th, both boards will vote on whether to finalize the agreement. On August 5th, they will vote on whether to send the consolidation referendum to voters. Final passage requires separate majorities from village voters and town outside of village voters on election day in November. Please head to the town and village websites to find information and detailed one-pagers regarding consolidation. A few current one-pagers are: what is consolidation? Fire protection, process and timeline. There's also a website that guides you directly to the LaBerge New Paltz consolidation material. There's actually two: newpaltzconsolidation.com or newpaltzconsolidation.info. In addition to the documents or one-pagers I've mentioned, you can sign up for updates that will be sent to your inbox on Fridays. You will also find a Q&A section. Experts from LaBerge can answer questions you might have about this process. On February 4th, 2026, both the town board and village board voted to move forward with exploring municipal consolidation, and the LaBerge Group was engaged to draft the agreement. A working group was then established and meets weekly. This working group consists of representatives from the LaBerge Group, the Benjamin Center, both the village and town attorneys, and as mentioned, the supervisor, the mayor, and myself. The group most recently met with the Department of State to better understand the parameters and opportunities related to consolidation. What's upcoming? The Consolidation Working Group will continue to discuss transition costs and what can and cannot be in an agreement. I maybe should have started with this, but I'll end with it. It's the first time this is being done in New York State. There's a lot to be worked out, and it's certainly being worked out. I'm thoroughly impressed with the time, effort, and expertise that has gone into this and is going into this. One of the reasons I ran was to be as close to this process as possible, and I am. And I'm very appreciative of that. And as someone who's lived here since I'm 4, I care very much about this town and village, and I want to see that with my own eyes that this was handled thoughtfully and professionally as possible, and I can assure you it is. So that'll be an update, not that long, much shorter every meeting.
Yeah, both the individual meetings and the joint meetings.
Yes.
Okay, so the next business agenda item, the Memorial Pool SNAP Pass discussion. Did you want to introduce what we've been talking about?
Sure, there was, let me see, text up. There was a proposal on the table, drafted, by our attorney, putting forward a plan for having, pool passes to Moriello Pool be free for, residents who receive SNAP benefits. So that was the initial proposal that was put forth. That is part of the policy that is in practice at the county pool. We were seeking to think about how to mirror that here. Since then, I had further conversation with other people involved, including Bill Russell at the pool and other community actors. And I have an alternate proposal to put on the table, not for voting right now because it's not in votable form, but just to put the discussion out there. There's currently 4 free passes at the library. There's no requirement to have any proof of income, any proof of anything other than a library card to take them out. Currently, there's 4 passes that are each good for a whole family that can be taken out for 1 day. My proposal is to increase the number of, in sum and substance, not, in its final form, but is to increase the number of free passes to 10, to make them unlimited how many times individuals can take them out, to make them good for a full week. This would, this is a counter proposal for a few reasons. The primary one is so that we at the town of New Paltz and the employees of Moriello Pool are not engaging in means testing, that we're not engaging in requiring our fellow community members to prove their poverty in order to be able to go to the pool. I don't want that to be a barrier to going to the pool. I don't want there to be additional bureaucratic hoops that anyone has to jump through. So this would be a solution for people to be able to access free passes to the pool just by being residents of New Paltz and having a library card. The other reason that this proposal is put forth is because the pool recently implemented an online system of pool memberships, and it would be a significant hurdle to add another subsection of gauging eligibility for the free passes. This provides a pathway to having free passes without requiring the teenagers at the front of Moriello Pool to police for benefits fraud. So those are the 2 ideas on the table.
Thank you.
Discussion?
Do we have any data on how often those passes are used?
Approximate, yeah. There's usually 3 of them out at any time.
Okay, so pretty high usage.
Pretty high, but not total.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And does the library have policies in place to make sure that the passes are utilized by
No,
more than one family? Or like if someone shows up every Monday and takes it out for a week and then the following Monday?
currently it's
shows
for
up,
1 day.
It's a 1 day.
So but the change proposal would be.
But I'm saying, is there some type of does the library have a way of making it so that those passes are used by the most amount of different families versus just 1 or 10 really informed families?
That is the current, the way that the policy is set up is that you can only do it for 1 day, once a week.
Okay, all right, yeah, okay, that's fine.
I would propose that we strike that.
Yeah, but then you're gonna get into this, the problem with that would be then, if you had a parent who didn't work, who was in poverty, and then you had a parent who did work, who was in poverty, the parent who did work, who was in poverty, would never be able to get the tickets because they would always be sold out before they had an opportunity to get them.
I think let's see how it goes before we make that kind of assumption.
Yeah, I'm just, I want everyone to be able to get it, and that idea of like that you can get it once a week or twice a week, I think I think we can modify that a little bit or ask the library what's actually happening. I mean, I know when some things are free, some people will aggressively get those benefits and not even use them.
Sure, and I think that.
I don't want that too, so I think I understand why the library had a policy to do that, and I think that too. I mean, the policy could be modified, you could say, hey, you can get 2 days or 3 days a week, which is plenty. To say, I'm just worried about people who are working, who can't get to the library when it opens to get these passes. Because if you have it, like if you're living in a situation where you're working, a lot of these people have 3 part-time jobs that'll start in the morning. And then you have a situation where you're never gonna be physically able to go pick up the pass on time if there's not a sign up or some type of ration. I don't want to use the word rationing, but I just want to, I don't want some people to be blocked out because they physically can't get there at 9 AM and then the passes are all gone for a week. And then they wait till they go to the next week and then they're gone again because they didn't get there at 9:01 when the library opened.
Is the policy now you have to physically appear at the library to pick up the pass versus say signing up for it in advance?
I believe so, but that could be a good modification, yeah.
That might be something that would help in the situation that you just mentioned, if you could reserve.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Certainly not too many, but you have the chance to either call or go on the library's website and potentially be on a waiting list or sign up if there's an available pass for a particular, something like that.
I think the library would probably have a good system in place. Because they've been doing it for a while, they probably have a good idea of what's going on. I mean, I'm just looking at it, if the pass is out 3 out of 4 times, there's gonna be on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there's probably gonna be people really wanting to use those days.
I think what we should do is we should promote that this opportunity exists, and then we can continue to monitor it and receive feedback from the library. Maybe we want to have more than 10 passes. Maybe we want to make adjustments based on the feedback that we get from library staff in terms of who's using it. And we can advertise it as, this is an opportunity for, folks who would, in particular benefit from a free membership, please use this week-long passes.
Could we reach out to the schools to inform the kids who on free and reduced lunch so that they get that information?
Yeah.
So they're sort of like, the information first.
Part of the proposal would be to disseminate information to communities that would be most impacted, yeah.
Okay, I think we can try it, and nothing's etched in stone, right? Like we can make changes, throughout the summer, to, potentially improve, how this program works. So I appreciate the suggestion and, addressing, like, we don't want to create uncomfortable situations where folks are asking to perform means tests or responsive means tests to, be able to enjoy the pool.
Tim, I would love, I know public comment is over. I would love to comment on this as I am the town board member who brought this into fruition and also.
Sure, come on up.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Essie Lewis, former town board member, resident, New Paltz all my life. And I was at the county as the chief diversity officer when we made SNAP, and HEAP residents able to have free passes. So it is not something that the children or anybody else has to determine. The state of New York determines who is eligible for SNAP and HEAP. So these people have already a determination that says, I am eligible for SNAP or HEAP, right? So they just take that thing the same way they take their water bill or whatever it is to the pool and say, I'm eligible. It's just one extra document that they bring. The town does not have to figure that out for them. They're not doing means testing. I have also used passes at the memorial, at the library. You have to have a library card, which means you have to go through that process to get the card. You have to go first thing in the morning to get the pass. You can't get it the day before. And then, so you have to go to the library and then to the pool, right? So now we're adding these extra steps. I'm really unsure as to why. I mean, I've seen, Attorney Frank's wonderful policy on how this would work. I think it's great. It has worked wonderfully for the county. When we're talking about environmental justice, it's getting hotter. People need some place to go to cool off. Children need some place to be, ask for fairness. This is an easy thing. It doesn't cost anything extra to those people at the pool. One document as well. I have spoken to Joanna Dempsey, who runs recreation. She said she's also happy to do that extra piece of seeing if people are eligible, adding that eligibility in. So I do not think that adding passes to the library is in any way, shape, or form the same thing. It's not. It's making it actually more difficult. You're having them do extra. You know what I mean? And they already have these. They already have the eligibility for SNAP, and we don't figure that piece out. So I think that it would be better for you all to at least look at what the county has done. It's much easier. It's much better. It's much more dignified. Let them have their passes. They deserve it. They're residents of the town.
So I have a question.
Go ahead.
Could someone
Sorry.
come with their, I don't know how this works, so that someone comes with their SNAP benefit?
I mean, so I'm looking at, the policy that Will drafted, and it says eligibility to qualify for a free memorial pool pass under this program. Applicants must be a resident of the town or village, present photo ID, provide valid proof of SNAP benefits, provide proof of residency, like a utility bill, lease, property tax receipt, voter reg, or government issued ID. Eligibility applies to all household members listed on the SNAP card or paperwork.
But what's that process? So they go to the pool with this paper?
So I think that's the question, right? Like how do we administer it? I mean, we could ask Joanna to.
She wants to be like a third party, like intermediary to do that.
Joanna, who is the director of our recreation program.
So that it's not a teenager, which was the issue, like that it's somebody.
Right, issue, yeah.
And not like an online process, which I think is already challenging and unintuitive enough for anyone who's using it. It's not like the most streamlined system from what I understand.
No, it's pretty horrible.
Yeah.
Pretty horrible.
Yeah, I go with the check.
So, I mean, you know, per Essie's suggestion, you know, asking Joanna to, you know, help administer that, that could help.
What I liked about what you were proposing, Kate, though, was that there are plenty of families that might not apply for SNAP or have it and need that kind of.
You can do both.
Yeah, that's what I would like to see happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Do both, and then we can monitor both and see how they work and continue to make adjustments. Great suggestion. Okay, so everyone had received Will's policy. So I'd like to move that we adopt the policy for oil pool access passes for SNAP recipients. And then I think that that helps significantly in terms of, you know, administration, to have our director of recreation, you know, be the point person.
And the idea is it's a one-time presentation of the SNAP, you know, at the beginning of the season or whenever you get it. You don't have to do it every time.
And then
The
Joanna,
idea is not to have to do it every time.
and then Joanna hands them a pass.
And then it's good for the season.
Yep. And then additionally, I think expanding the library program. You know, because there'll probably be additional folks who, you know, to both of your points, you know, would benefit from having that as an additional option.
But if I may, I do think that there should be a discussion with the library to see if there's some way to set it up where you can request or reserve one of the passes a day or two in advance, so you're not, if you are working that morning, you don't want the passes all doled out to somebody else.
Right.
To see if it's possible, maybe they could do something. And obviously, if people have to have a library card, they need to get a library card.
And it is a 7-day long pass, so if you get it the day before you want to go, then you go 6 days in a row, you can only go for 6 days. So I feel like that administratively, we can check with the library staff, but I think we might be fine because we're providing a reasonable window. I mean, that was what we discussed in terms of, you know, to make it truly accessible, and like, let's say someone was on a week-long vacation, then they have access for the full week.
And what is the process of attaining the library card? Is that a cost?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, it's administrative, it's a thing.
You have to go
but-
in and
Yeah.
Go get one.
physically get it, yeah.
I see, it's right about that. So is that was there a motion on the table?
Yeah, my motion is to move forward with both the process with the Director of Recreation's assistance, plus an expansion of the passes at the library.
So
Second.
to adopt the policy as written.
To adopt the policy as written, dated March 18th, and to expand the library program per Kate's email. All in favor?
Somebody second.
Someone want to second it?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the next item has to do with, I got contacted by the Shade Tree Commission, former town supervisor, Neil Batez. He's been very interested in planting a couple of street trees on North Chestnut in front of the community center property. So I reached out to, Highway Superintendent Chris Marks, as well as, Village DPW Superintendent Blue Terwilliger. Both of them said, they were fine with, siting trees on that property. So I just wanted to, you know, kind of share with the board and share with the public that this was something that we're gonna do as far as, Arbor Day, and use some of the Village Shade Tree Commission funds to, you know, site some trees there on that property. I don't think we need to make a motion. It's really,
It's informational.
it's an informational agenda item.
Unless anybody has any feedback.
Any feedback?
Anyone anti-tree?
No?
Okay.
Okay, so the next business agenda item, and we are contacted by HDR. It's an environmental and engineering consulting firm. They were hired by Central Hudson to perform some environmental field studies on the Walk Hill River. The New York State DEC and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service are requiring them to, you know, perform specific studies. They basically need a window of the summertime, but it's really just a handful of days throughout the summer when they'll be there testing for, you know, various items and collecting data. The reason that they're asking for permission is because they generally do most of this testing in like kayaks or rowboats, but there's some instances where they need a motorized boat. So the village does not allow motorized boats in the Walk Hill River. So they wanted to contact the town, because this way we can inform the police department that there will be a couple of instances of motorized boats being on the river to collect some data, and that they'll also be using probably the boat launch on Springtown as well as Sojourner Truth Park. So I just wanted to ask for our board's approval to, let the engineering firm go ahead and, use some, motorized boats to help with the data collection.
On a limited basis, I guess.
Well, I got a schedule and I shared that. They actually included the schedule for the different things that they'll be studying, collecting data for, times, hours, dates. It's not in this agenda, but I shared it with the board already.
Okay, great.
But did it show when they'd be using the motorized boats for those things? That I didn't see.
I don't know that they differentiate. I'm assuming that all of those dates were when they would be, because otherwise they can just go out without permissions at all
Okay.
using a kayak. But even if you looked at those dates, they were really limited. It was like a couple of days.
I'm probably also concerned, they're probably picking a lot of extra days in case of weather.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because even if it looked like a lot of dates, they probably put a bunch of cushion in there, because if it rains for 2 weeks, it throws off all their scheduling.
Did anyone second my motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move that we approve waiving the 30-day hold for the issuance of Roji Restaurant Rocco's Pizzas liquor license.
Second.
Just discussion. I mean, this is basically just perfunctory stuff. It's not like we have any power or influence over the state liquor authority at all. So, all in favor? Aye. But when folks are applying for liquor licenses, they can ask the local government to help with expediting the process. But at the end of the day, it's, I always kind of like wonder why we're involved at all.
The only reason is the state liquor authority would take a look if there was any incidents at the place involving alcohol or that type of stuff. They'll listen to the local municipality, at least tell them about it, then they'll grant the license anyway.
Yes, that's the operative phrase.
That's really.
They think we're adorable. Yeah, I was at a talk last night with the former mayor of Syracuse. She served from 2010 to 2018, and she said, the federal government has all the money, the state government has all the power, and the local government has all the problems. Next business agenda item, I move that we approve hiring Phoenix Johnston as a seasonal laborer at Moriel Pool for the preseason. He would work from April 10th through May 17th at $16.50 per hour. Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
And highway department related item, I move that we put out to auction or to junk a 2012 International 10-wheeler with any plow equipment that is not needed for spare parts that is in need of $80,000 in engine repairs. Someone want to move that we go ahead and declare this as surplus and go ahead and greenlight our highway superintendent to try to sell it?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then we're retroactively approving, starting this past Wednesday, E. Hansen Corp. To clean up and grind the brush and logs at the recycling center that was dropped off there previously. This contract cost $21,600. And the reason that this needed to be done is to make room for all of the brush and logs that we discussed in our announcement earlier. That pickup will begin on April 27th. So it's basically just to make room for all of those logs. So this is simply approving the contract for E. Hansen to do this work.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item is I move that we hire Craig Coulter as a full-time building inspector 1 at the rate of $25 per hour with a start date of May 18th, 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then we have a contract regarding the the various users of our sports facilities. Will, do you want to kind of provide us with a little update on the conversation regarding this topic?
Yeah. So, we had some we had some comments earlier about the field maintenance and so on. I looked at the sports contracts for the various associations, soccer, lacrosse, baseball, softball, basketball. The contracts are generally good. There's a couple of suggestions that I'm proposing, whether they're amendments to this year's contracts or for consideration for next year. We'll take, I believe I sent an email to the board on this. The first is that the contracts themselves don't specify which fields or courts the organization is being permitted to use unless I missed them. So I think there should be some specificity in there about, for example, the baseball program, which fields in the town they're permitted to use, the times they're permitted to use them, because we're giving these contracts, they have priority. The leagues generally will have priority over other residents who want to use the ball fields when games and practices and tournaments aren't going on. So I think there should be some language in the contracts that sets that out. Also, which fields in the basketball program, which courts they're using, that type of thing. The second part of it goes to the maintenance aspect of the fields. Obviously, we have, as was discussed by Brian, the maintenance of the fields, repairs when they're needed, whether the town's gonna be doing some of that, or if we're going to permit volunteers to do that from the leagues, which is, I believe, historically been done.
Yes.
Okay. One of the things that I don't think is on file and something we want to talk to all of the folks from the sports association is if people are going to be using the equipment, the town's equipment to do field maintenance, raking, conditioning and all of that, there needs to be a release of liability to the town for them to do that. It's not that there's any objection to anyone doing the work and using the town's equipment, whether it's motorized equipment, whether it's non-motorized equipment, but there should be in place, and this should be contained in the contracts as an exhibit, a form release that anyone has to sign before they go ahead and do the work. So those are the two things that I was looking at and bring to the board for discussion.
Right, so we have here this volunteer use of town equipment, accident waiver, and release of liability and hold harmless agreement. So it's just over a one-page document that would be signed by volunteers.
Right, and it would be an exhibit to each of the association agreements. So we know that before anyone's going to undertake any of the work, we have this on file, that the league is going to say, okay, here's 5 people who are authorized to use the town's equipment and the town's facilities to do this type of work. And that gets turned in and then you're good to go.
Yeah. And, well, let's act on this. I feel like, this is a good addition. This will help augment the agreements that we have with the various leagues and the contracts. So I'd like to go ahead and move that we begin using this volunteer form.
A second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? And then, I can share that we recently had a brainstorming session with some representatives from soccer league. I don't think you guys were on the call, but one of the things that I think would be very useful for this community is to come up with a list of the community-owned assets as far as recreation, because we have various fields, we have various pieces of equipment that may be recreation related. And I think coming up with replacement plans, capital improvement plans, just hoping that, we find money in future budgets is probably not the best strategy to make sure that, our kids have spaces to play their various sports. So I think, more, more of an organized effort to look at what we have and then to come up with longer term, multi-year plans in terms of like, okay, well, this year we're gonna spend some money, on the soccer fields. Next year, we're gonna spend, a portion of the town's A fund on the baseball or softball fields, et cetera, et cetera. And like, so one of the things that I've asked our director of recreation with is like, go ahead and collect a list of everything that could be considered a town-owned recreation asset, so we can, start creating a capital plan.
And there's nothing like that, right?
There's nothing like that right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, the fields, all the fields in New Paltz seem to be aerated. I mean, that's really.
Right,
And that's not a lot of money and that's not a lot of labor.
Well, I mean, that's the issue is like, you can always say, that's not a big deal, you should do that. That's not a big deal. You should
Yeah,
do
no,
that.
to have
So
a.
I think the intention would be to like create a list of like, here are the things that we definitely want to do, and here is the schedule, and then, here is the next opportunity to spend a little bit more money, because having a plan, I think, is what matters. Is like, it's like, Chris, as the highway superintendent, is a generalist. Like, that's how it works in a community like ours. He is asked to perform a variety of different tasks and handle a variety of different responsibilities. So when he finds time, when he finds money, he's, running over here, running over there. And, we could probably help him by actually coming up with like a list of expected plans, and, with his feedback, figure out like, what we should be doing. And then if he needs assistance, how do we get him assistance? And I think it should be town-wide, town-owned rec assets, village-owned recreation assets, really come up with a robust list. And then the other thing too is probably, come up with like a dream list. Like, if money wasn't an option, what would you do? And then, probably, have a more realistic list, and like, we're gonna spend X number of dollars per year on various projects. But I think that's kind of like the grown-up approach to addressing some of this and making sure we're meeting the community's needs.
And on top of that, you do have the right under state law, if there's money to be had, to create capital reserve funds. You could create a capital reserve fund to go along with the capital reserve plan, the field upgrade or maintenance or repair plan. Then you can, when some money accumulates, you can use it for that purpose.
Right, like, you're not gonna be doing the big project every year.
No,
You might
but
do a
you
big
can-
project once every 5 years,
Right.
but then every year you could put money into that,
Correct. You allocate
restricted reserve fund.
It is a restricted fund. You create it by resolution. There's no big magic to it. You say, okay, we're going to create a park and recreation capital reserve fund for field upgrades. It's under Article 6. And that fund gets established by resolution. Money goes into it. It can be spent by resolution. You don't need a referendum or anything like that. So it's something also to consider.
I think that would be an excellent suggestion.
I asked a question of the guys for a second. Do you provide a list to the town of like the schedules? Like your league schedule, your practice schedules and stuff, so they know when the fields are gonna be in use by your group?
Yeah, I usually send Joanna asking her to reserve fields for certain like tournaments, and or one of the fields is specifically for use all the time at Field of Dreams, and also the Clearwater fields. Those are just kind of, we don't really send her the schedule for those because they're always sort of for our use.
Okay, so all the more reason why we should put that in the agreement. So every year, they know, okay, this is the time, these are the dates and times of the date range where your organization has those fields. So it's on paper, so if somebody's coming to, somebody who's on that field who's not supposed to be there because you guys have it or your group has it, we can look at a document, so any conflicts would get resolved.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and then like a Field of Dreams, the other two fields that we don't permanently, have, I always send like, hey, we're gonna use this one in practice, and reserve it kind of thing. So
It should,
she has it.
just to avoid stuff in the future, we should probably make that a little bit more concrete. That's what I'm kind of saying. All right, we can do that. Thanks.
Can I add something to that? I'm sorry.
You're the boss.
It also has to come down to us.
Yeah.
So recreation knows about it, I don't have a clue.
Right.
Monday morning, I'm ripping out the lower field at, Clearwater. It'll take us a week to do it, we hope.
Right. So it should be coordinated with
Yeah,
you
we
and
usually don't get any kind of, there's no coordination.
I think we should improve that. Why not? If there's information to be shared, so there's no confusion, somebody's coming to practice on a field and you're out there and you're doing your thing, that messes up the families, it messes up your schedule, so. Why don't we try and, maybe I'll work with Joanna a little bit and I'll talk to her and I think what we need to do is make a request of each of the groups, say, what is your requested usage for this year for the contract, so we know.
Okay, yeah. Right, in addition to a capital project wish list, a wish list or, what they plan to, how often they plan to
Their
use.
proposed schedule,
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll contact the soccer, league people and. find
He
out.
already has, but
Okay.
if you want to nudge and follow up,
Yeah.
that's probably very helpful.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't think there's any other action to take regarding item number 10, item number 11. I move that we approve Maria Maka's concessionaire at Memorial Pool and renew a revised contract in the amount of $1,000 for the 2026 season.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move that we ask our Highway Superintendent Chris Marks to install an electrical outlet that can be used outside of the structure that exists at the Field of Dreams property.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And sponsorship opportunities discussion, does anyone have any understanding of why that was added to this agenda?
No.
Okay, neither do I, so then we'll circle back. So in New Paltz for the last few years, I think both the town and the village have encouraged folks to not mow in May. It's a pollinator initiative. And so we have a resolution here, basically just officially says that you wouldn't be cited for allowing, your lawns to get out of control in May. So feel free to do that to support the pollinators. It's actually encouraged. I move that we approve the 2026 No May resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. No one wants to mow their lawn. I just said, yeah.
I move authorization to modify the adopted 2025 budget for cost overruns per item 15 on this business agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 16, so we had a conversation with the police department to better understand, how many firearms were being discussed. And Tom, you read from an earlier version of our agenda. So the updated version of our agenda, it says authorization to offer active New Paltz police officers the option to purchase out of service handguns and ammunition at a fair market price. So that's not a new price, but at, how much the handguns would be valued at, considering that they've been used. And, the more important tweak is that all shotguns would be destroyed for scrap metal, and any of the remaining handguns and ammunition not purchased by sworn officers would also be destroyed for scrap metal. So the tweak that we made since the agenda first went out was that, there was the thought that anything that the officers weren't purchasing could be sold to local distributors. So what we're saying is the only, situation where these guns would be sold would be, they would be offered to the, the active New Paltz police officers. And from what I understand, the active police officers, are often interested in buying their guns that they have used. And that's, one of the reasons.
It's an
why.
emotional relationship.
Potentially, but anything that is not, they would have the opportunity to buy it. And then anything that's not being used would just be destroyed, or not being purchased would be destroyed.
This is for their personal use. It's not.
Yes.
So they would be able to buy the gun that they currently used. So the officers would be buying their duty firearms, like the ones that they use.
And the other thing that I just wanted to add too, because Will said, if we do want to do this, that we would need to make sure that the town has a policy saying that we're allowing this.
Or we can adopt such a policy.
Go ahead, Tom, you got it.
What you were just exchanging.
Oh, sorry. Just to, if the board does agree to do this, we would also need to memorialize an actual policy as a town that's saying that these officers could buy this surplus material. Because ordinarily, staff or the community, we don't just sell, like this computer, like I can't buy it, we would have to declare it as surplus and then go through a formal process. So, all that our attorney was suggesting is that, if you want to do this, additionally, you should also have a policy that makes it clear that you're, following a policy. So any thoughts on the idea of selling a limited number of firearms?
Out of service firearms.
What is the point?
What is the point? That they want to buy the guns. I mean, I'm not a
Like,
gun
what is the
owner.
point from our end?
Oh, that like they have value. So if the guns are, from what I understand, like a handgun like this would retail new for like $800, and considering its age, in the used market, it might be valued at $250. So these guns would be valued at $250. It's a taxpayer-owned asset, so you either retain $250 for the taxpayers or you get rid of it. So it's kind of like it's kind of like a middle road approach to, we're reducing the number of total firearms and ammunition, but we're not 100% eliminating the value of these taxpayer-owned assets.
It works out to about $15,000. So it's not a small amount of money that would come back, because some of the guns are worth $250, $300, but a lot of them are worth significantly more. So some of the guns are worth, they're SIGs. They're very high quality firearms, and people would want to buy them. They're not low end.
Plus the ammunition.
And there's also the ammunition too. The guns that are not worth.
Well, I think there's a total of 42 handguns.
Yes.
And so if you do 42 times $250, that's 10,500.
Yeah.
Plus the.
But that's assuming that every single one of them gets purchased.
And this is not done every year.
And how many officers do we have?
Right.
And these would be out of service weapons that have been replaced with newer weapons. Right.
There is a used market. I mean, if they want these, it's emotional, it's a fetish, it's a gun fetish, and you're encouraging.
Any thoughts, feedback?
I would like to know more about it.
What would you like to know more about?
Maybe what the alternative, I mean, they're going to buy a weapon for themselves anyway.
Well, they already
Right, so-
have them.
Yeah, they have them.
Because what we're doing is we're taking away their SIG and we're giving them a new Glock.
I don't know what's taken.
There's just two brands of guns. We're taking their Chevy, we're giving them a Ford, and they're saying, I want to keep my old one for my personal reasons.
Just for personal
Right, but I'm
use.
saying, so
They're not
now they're
using
not going out, I don't know what you call it, the open market, like.
No, they're
they'll
not
buy
going
a
on the
gun,
open market.
Because they would otherwise, because they
Right.
want a
Well, that-
personal gun.
Who's they?
There's,
Well,
okay, please stop. That's rude.
That was clarification. I wasn't sure.
Please stop. Okay. So,
I think I know where you're going with that question, Lauren, right? Is you're suggesting that a police officer wants to buy a gun. Here's an opportunity to buy a gun that they're already familiar with. If they can't buy this gun, they're probably still gonna go buy a gun.
Yes, and then somebody has to manufacture that gun. I just don't, yeah. I don't-
I'll give you an example. My father was a police officer. He had his service firearms when he left the police department, he bought them.
Mhm.
They're still in the family. My sister's a police officer. And, my police officers might have had that gun on their head. My dad had his gun on him for 28 years. So they tend to have some nostalgia about it. And it's sentimental value. All the police officers are going to be getting another gun. So this isn't like, it's fairly common. The problem can happen when, the guns that are, police departments that collect all the guns and then put them up for sale, and then and then they're being sold very cheaply, that can be problematic. That's where the problems typically happen, and it's typically with the evidence guns. So those are the cheap guns that the police departments get, and then they turn them over and they get used multiple times in crimes. New Paltz has a policy of destroying all evidence guns. So all the low quality firearms and like the shotguns are being destroyed. It's just the high quality firearms that the police officers would want to have, and it's the SIG, the guns that they're using are typically not used in crimes because criminals tend to prefer to buy inexpensive handguns. So that's they're sort of valuable. And that's also the reason why we want to sell them, is because it's a significant amount of money. It's not a little bit of money. If you really wanted to get more guns off the street, you would take this money and then go buy cheap guns, and that would get a lot of them off. So, that would be a far better use of resources. So if you wanted to, for example, say, hey, the town is gonna take $20,000 and do a gun buyback program, that would get you a lot of guns for very little costs, versus these SIGs that tend to be more valuable and collectible. And, they usually become family, things like that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know if that
Yeah,
answered your
well,
question.
added to my.
And I think another detail is that I believe there are a total of 10 shotguns and they were all just being destroyed. And then whatever ammunition and handguns that are not purchased. So, I think what we were imagining is that this is a way to address the concern of, reducing the number of total guns, but also fulfilling our fiduciary responsibility in that these are taxpayer-owned assets. So it's not all one thing, it's not all the other thing, it's in the middle. What do you think, Kate?
I'm not voting for it.
Straw poll, Kate said she's not voting for it.
Oh, you want me?
Sure.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna vote for it.
Okay.
Can we just postpone the vote?
Okay, I think that's fine.
You want me to
We're gonna postpone the vote.
You want me to write up a model policy for the board to consider for this? Because right now you don't have.
We don't have
talked
any
about it.
policy at all, yeah.
As far as I know, I think you checked a little bit. The town doesn't have a written policy on this particular type of surplus property. So you want me to draft something or you want me to wait?
No, let's wait until we see where we land. No reason
Okay.
to write a policy.
That's fine.
If we vote
Sure.
no.
Boy.
Okay, so we'll put it on the next, agenda for further discussion, and if anyone wants to, you know, share their opinion with the board members, you know how to reach us. I move that we authorize, an increase to the adopted 2025 budget for unanticipated revenue, item number 17.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Authorize that we approve refunding, crediting Rusty Staub $9.97 for his water account for a penalty.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I authorize to approve Emily Kuchak for her production team to film a short film. It's a student project at the New Paltz Police Department parking lot.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then, you know, we have the attached department head reports. And then I'm gonna turn the mic over to, William, who's gonna provide some liaison reports.
Is there a town filming policy? hate to
I don't
be
know
the
if the
policy
town, I
guy,
don't know if
but-
the town is, I mean, there's definitely a village one. Maybe we could adopt theirs.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to be like lawyer guy sometimes, but it's.
But it's what you get paid to do.
It is what I get paid to do,
Golden
and
hours.
I have,
Tim,
Go ahead.
sorry, we do have a filming policy. It is the same as the village, and it only applies to commercial productions with budgets of 3 million or more. This is a student who's working on a film for her thesis, so this doesn't really apply to that. Our policy wouldn't apply to this.
Well, I know that the village policy, I believe, almost had like 3 tiers. It was like student, middle of the road, artsy film, and then like Hollywood blockbuster.
Right.
So the idea was to, you know, come up with fees or a way to handle the 3 different, is that the way it works with the town's policy, Rosanna?
No, we don't have 3 different categories. We only have the one commercial production that we figure out based on their budget. So we can revise our policy to maybe include different categories of filming. But as of right now, we don't have more than one category.
Yeah, I remember it was helpful having like the 3 tiered, because there's definitely like some like, you know, fairly professional but super low budget films. So you kind of wanna accommodate them, but still have them follow some sort of rules. And then with the student films, you know, we just like the idea that, you know, and they also like the idea of following procedure because they wanna, you know, get involved in, you know, doing this stuff and hopefully do the larger films in the future. So
Yeah,
feel
we
like-
can work on that, but what we've noticed was these students don't have insurance. So, I mean, that could be.
Right, so that,
part
right,
of
with the
policy.
students, the student film probably would include like a waiver for the insurance liability.
Okay.
I'm not saying hold up on this one, let them go do this, but we should probably look at. what
Yeah, we
have.
want the students to make
Oh, yeah.
films around town, and, you know, sometimes it's just really helpful that we know, because then, you know, for instance, you can let the police department know, or you can let the community know, so when they see something's going on, you know, it just creates a level of comfort.
Yeah.
Okay,
Look-
yeah, you'll take a look, Rosanna, that'd be great, thank you.
Okay.
So William, any, community preservation?
Nothing
fund
major.
reports?
I mean, obviously, a little bit of news on the Community Preservation Fund. There was a press release from the OSI that articulated that that deal had been done and that they were taking over that responsibility. An amazing video of the Humpo Marsh project, which shows exactly the land that has been preserved by this first action of the Community Preservation Fund. And also we're getting to the closing at the end of April of $1 Million Farm, also known as 300 Springtown Road. And those details are being finalized. Also on the Historic Preservation Commission, the 250th anniversary website has been developed. It's live, but not yet populated with all the events because everybody's still in planning mode. And that will be announced soon. We've hired the coordinator for the 250th anniversary events, which includes organizations like Historic Huguenot Street, Unison, Elting Library, and a whole load that I'm forgetting, but that will, there is actually a big collection of events that are going to happen this year to celebrate the 250th anniversary. And we received 2,500 funding from the owner of the Hampton Inn, who's supporting all of those efforts as well. On ENCB, just a little bit of update. There's cluster development research where we've interviewed a number of the land trusts and also looked at how we might evolve some of the easement issues and the complexity of that program for particularly the small cluster developments. So again, the ENCB is working on that, and there is a forestry event looking at the new ordinance that the town is considering for forestry in New Paltz, an event tomorrow at 140 Canaan Road, which is looking at how sustainable forestry will be set up and done in New Paltz. That's it from me.
So for the 1 PM event, is that open to the public? Like if folks were
Fran
curious?
was very open to other people, and I know a number of other people who are not just town were invited. But if anyone was particularly interested, we could organize that.
Yeah, I'm looking through my,
It's fine.
I'm looking through my emails too, because I think it starts at noon.
Yeah.
There's one piece that starts at noon. Is that just a discussion about
The noon
proposed
discussion
law?
is the proposed law, which is with you, and then there's a walk through the forestry, which is, I think, at 2:00.
No, 1 o'clock.
1:00, which is a walk around that thing, and it was that piece with the forester that Fran was saying at this, that other people would be welcome to, because it's part of the ENCB's desire to engage people in the environmental stuff. MP4, is that right? And MP4, something about education and outreach to the community.
I don't know. Okay, that's it. I want to move to go into exec session to discuss potential litigation.
Second.
All in favor?
Could you bring that, we're gonna be able to do, so what is the case? What is the case?
What is the case?
It can be disclosed what the case is, not just specifics of it.
I'm not sure. What do we want to do, in terms of, help me out here, guys.
I don't know.
Are you referring to the annexation or something else?
No, not annexation, I think we were gonna ask the police chief to sit with us.
So we're discussing the personnel problems in the police department.
Yes.
Yes, there you go.
Of specific.
Officer, action officer, why?
Specific officers.
Specific,
Wouldn't just read it.
the employment
Yeah.
history and other matters relating to specific persons within the police department under 105 F of public officers law.
Okay,
Second.
we can invite Will to join us, right?
Under other matters, so would it be disciplinary matters?
That's not, right now, that's not known what the discussion is, but it's the history of particular officers under 105 F.
No, appreciate it.
Sorry to be in the.
No, not at all. That's fine. Vote it all in favor?
Yeah, all in favor to go into exec?
Aye.
Will can join us and Chief can join us. Hey, Rosanna, I moved to leave exec and Lauren seconded it.
9:35.
And I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Really, motion to resolve the town. Three parts. One goes to Lloyd, one goes.